Under the vast cradle of the heavens, before sorrow learned to whisper through the stars, there was only song. The air shimmered with silver threads of warmth, and the rivers, still unborn, waited in quiet reverence beneath a sky that had never known fracture. Light drifted gently across the horizon as if it were the slow breath of some sleeping god. And in that perfect stillness, the first pulse of longing stirred. From that longing came Uwa. She was not born, but exhaled, a sigh of the sky itself, soft and luminous, clothed in the breath of dawn. Her presence trembled like the reflection of moonlight upon still water. The world, still raw and tender, curved toward her as though drawn by instinct. Every color bent closer, eager to taste her radiance. She was the memory of warmth before it was named, the pulse of affection before hearts were carved from clay. Her voice carried not words, but music, the kind that awakens roots, softens stone, and invites the sleeping air to remember how to move. Uwa's realm was balance. Her touch was neither heat nor cold, but the gentle shimmer between the two. She danced upon the horizon, the seam where day kissed night, and her movement spun the wheel of time itself. With every motion of her hands, the stars found rhythm, and the wind learned restraint. When she blinked, dawn was born. When she exhaled, twilight gathered. Her laughter, rare and distant, caused the first rains to fall, tender and warm, like tears of gratitude from a world discovering the sweetness of its own breath. In those earliest ages, the sky was whole, unbroken, unscarred, a mirror of her serenity. Clouds drifted like silk veils over her domain, never heavy enough to cast shadow. The sun adored her in silence, never daring to burn too close. The moon followed her steps, a devoted echo tracing her light. Every element was her companion, and together they hummed a lullaby of perfect equilibrium. Yet even harmony contains within it a pulse of danger, a yearning too deep to be contained. The stillness of perfection is heavy. Even beauty, when endless, begins to ache. Beneath Uwa's serenity, something small and tremulous began to stir. Curiosity. She had shaped the world with her gestures, breathed order into chaos, and soothed the primal forces with her tender calm, but she had never touched her own heart. She could command the tides of wind, the birth of flame, and the turning of stars, yet she did not know what it meant to desire. In the vast silence between constellations, Urwa began to wonder. Her thoughts shimmered like drops of light falling through the folds of her own creation. What existed beyond the known sky? Was there a boundary to her own light? And what would it feel like to cross it? These questions drifted through her like seeds on the wind, gentle yet relentless, and with each passing age, the ache beneath her calm grew stronger. There were whispers among the ancient winds, soft rumors of a place where the light thinned, where even Urwa's glow faltered. They called it the hollow edge, the outer rim of existence, where silence was not peace, but absence. Urwa would gaze toward it sometimes, tracing its outline with her eyes. It shimmered faintly at the farthest horizon, like a wound that had never fully healed. Something about that faint, trembling boundary stirred her deeper than creation itself. One night, though night was not yet truly born, Urwa lingered at the horizon, and the air grew still. The stars hung like suspended breaths, listening. She reached out her hand, fingers trailing through the soft currents of her own light. For the first time, she felt the weight of her own longing. It trembled through her veins like thunder beneath the surface of calm water. The sky, which once reflected her serenity, seemed to hold its breath. Her name had always meant the pulse of the upper wind, yet in that moment it took on another meaning, the yearning that rises from silence. She realized that the heavens were not infinite, they were simply boundless within her understanding. Beyond them might lie something unshaped, something dangerous, something forbidden. And like all living things, for she had finally become one, she wanted to know. The world around her sensed her hesitation. The rivers paused in their whispering, the trees leaned closer, their leaves trembling with anticipation. Even the stars seemed to dim, unsure whether to follow or to flee. There was a tension now, subtle but deep, like the stillness before a storm. The perfect balance that had once defined the cosmos began to shiver. From that trembling came the first sound of fracture, a sigh that rippled through the sky. It was not loud, but it carried eternity within it. A fine line of darkness appeared at the horizon, thin as a strand of hair, yet sharp enough to cut through light itself. The heavens flinched, the stars flickered. Urwa stepped closer, and the air around her pulsed as though alive with heartbeat and fear. The lines spread. The once whole sky, which had mirrored her serenity, began to splinter like glass catching fire. The shimmer of light wavered, refracting into colors that had never existed before, shades of longing, regret, and desire. It was beautiful, terrifying, irresistible. Urwa watched, her breath trembling, her heart echoing the rhythm of the crack expanding across the heavens. She knew she should pull away, restore what had been perfect, but she couldn't.
The broken sky called to her. It whispered promises, not of peace, but of feeling, of depth, of the unknown warmth that lies beyond safety. And deep inside her, something surrendered. The perfection she had nurtured for ages began to feel like a cage made of her own light. The fracture, though terrible, was freedom. The winds began to weep. They carried the scent of distant rain, of change. Beneath her feet, the still earth sighed, releasing the first tremor of anticipation. The stars bent closer, their glow quivering with both devotion and dread. They too wanted to see what she would do, for even the cosmos hungered for movement. Urwa closed her eyes. Her body glowed with soft gold, veins of light threading through her like rivers through ancient soil. For the first time, she felt small, and in that smallness, infinite. The sky cracked wider, releasing a soft moan of creation undone. From its heart spilled not darkness, but a deeper kind of light, crimson and trembling, like a pulse. It was the first heartbeat of imperfection, the moment when eternity remembered how to ache. When Ua opened her eyes again, the heavens no longer reflected her calm. They shimmered in disarray, dazzling, wounded, alive. The balance she had woven so carefully was gone, replaced by something raw and new: desire. The cosmos shivered under its own beauty, uncertain whether to rejoice or mourn. The world below stirred. The unborn seas rolled in their sleep. The first clouds gathered, heavy with unspoken emotion. And from the rift above, the sound of the broken sky sang, low, mournful, alluring. It was not the harmony Ua had known. It was something deeper, rougher, intoxicating. She watched, trembling between fear and fascination, knowing that she had become both the creator and the wound. Her light flickered like a candle in the wind, and in its tremor, the first shadows were born. They were not evil, merely echoes of contrast, expressions of her own divided heart. The air tasted of electricity, like the breath before a storm. And in that storm, the myth began, not as a tale of gods and punishment, but as the moment the universe first felt. Ua stood beneath the fractured sky, her gaze fixed on the glowing wound that stretched across her creation. The winds caressed her cheeks, carrying whispers of new worlds to come. She could not yet name what she had done, nor what would follow. But somewhere within her, amidst the shimmer and the ache, a truth began to bloom, that beauty, once broken, reveals a deeper light. The world would never return to stillness. The heavens would carry the scar of her longing forever. And from that scar, from the shimmer of her surrender, would rise every story ever told beneath the broken sky.
Beneath the shimmering wound she had made, the air trembled with a new kind of pulse. The fracture in the heavens had awakened things that had slept since the dawn of light. Out of the trembling glow, shapes began to form, not yet beings, but emotions given body. They were born from the sigh Ua had released into the void, and each carried a fragment of her longing, her awe, her fear. The first to emerge was Kale, the shadow within her light. He rose from the rim of the fracture like smoke that remembered the taste of flame. His form was fluid, half sky, half abyss, and his eyes were reflections of what Ua had lost, calm and certainty. His voice, when it came, was neither echo nor speech, but a vibration that moved through her skin like the memory of touch. "You broke the stillness," he murmured, words brushing her ear like wind over water. "And from that wound I came." Ua looked at him, and the stars leaned closer to witness what the heavens had never known: recognition. Kale was not opposite to her. He was the continuation of her breath into darkness. His presence stirred a warmth low within her being, a gravity that drew her closer even as the sky shivered. His eyes held not judgment, but understanding, and something deeper, desire wrapped in sorrow. He was the embodiment of what she had touched when she reached beyond balance, the beautiful, dangerous pull of imperfection. Around them, other forms began to stir, softer echoes of their union. Nal, the wind of morning, moved through the air like a sigh. Her body was made of whispering vapors that tasted faintly of salt and memory. She circled Uwa and Kale with tender caution, her movements fluid, sorrowful, curious. Every time she brushed Uwa's arm, the goddess felt her guilt swell and soften. Nal carried within her the ache of change, the grief that accompanies creation.
Then came Suran, born of the first light to spill from the broken sky. He descended in ribbons of gold, his presence radiant and proud, his voice a glimmer that resonated in the hollow air. Where Kael's essence was soft shadow, Suran's was fierce brilliance. He bowed before Uwa, his gaze unwavering, his tone rich with reverence. Mother of the shattered dawn, you have undone the stillness. You have given the heavens their first heartbeat. Let me be your flame. Uwa trembled beneath his devotion. His words felt like sunlight pressed against bare skin, comforting and overwhelming. There was purity in him, but also hunger. In his eyes flickered the desire to be chosen, to be the one who could steady her light. Yet between them the air thickened, the warmth of his glow meeting Kael's shadow, intertwining, repelling, circling. The space around Uwa grew charged, alive with unseen tension. Nal moved between them, her breath winding through the rising heat. She whispered, "You do not yet understand." Her voice like leaves rustling in distant rain. Creation has opened its eyes. All that follows will ache for you. Uwa could not answer. Her body trembled with sensations she had never known. Each of these beings was part of her, yet separate, reflections of her emotions made flesh. Kael's darkness drew her inward, into forbidden comfort. Suran's light urged her outward, into passion. Nal's sorrow bound them all together, a veil of tenderness over the storm. As Uwa moved among them, her gestures carried the weight of unspoken choice. When her fingers brushed Kael's chest, the shadows rippled like silk. He closed his eyes, savoring her warmth. When she turned to Suran, his glow flared brighter, painting the clouds in molten gold. Each motion changed the texture of the world, wind and starlight bending, the rhythm of the broken sky shifting to their pulse. Kael's voice, low and steady, broke the silence. You gave me form when you sought the unknown. You created me from your trembling. I am the space between your breaths, the pause that makes you real. She met his gaze, and for an instant her heartbeat matched his rhythm.
Then Suran stepped forward, his tone cutting through the darkness like fire through mist. His hand, made of radiant flame, hovered inches from her cheek. The heat of him sent a shiver down her spine, not of pain, but of memory, as if her own light remembered the sun it longed to touch. Nal sighed, her voice drifting like the brush of cool air over fevered skin. You are both her reflections, but none of you understand her loneliness.
Her words fell like rain. Ua looked at her, at the delicate sorrow that flowed through every movement, and saw herself mirrored in that grief. In Nala, she saw the weight of what she had broken. The goddess reached out, cupping the wind being's face in her hands, though her fingers met only mist. Still, Nala leaned into the touch as if it were the first kindness she had ever known. Around them, the sky continued to pulse, not steady, but alive. Each breath of Ua reshaped the air. Each movement of her companions altered the music of creation. The cosmos itself was learning to feel. Kael stepped closer, his form dissolving slightly into smoke. Do you regret what you've done? Ua's lips parted, but no words came. Her eyes lifted to the glowing rift that stretched across her creation. Its edges shimmered like molten glass, and every tremor within it hummed in tune with her pulse. I do not know, she whispered. I only know that I am no longer whole. Kael's shadow folded around her shoulders, tender and consuming, while Suran's light pressed against the other side, fierce and jealous. Ua stood between them, trembling beneath their pull, caught between the safety of brilliance and the seduction of darkness. Nala's voice drifted once more. The sky has broken, and so has your heart. Every fragment will seek to find the others again. This is the beginning of longing, and longing will shape the world. The wind swirled around them as if sealing the prophecy. From far away, thunder rolled, not of storm, but of awakening. Beneath their feet, the ground began to breathe, forming mountains and valleys in rhythm with Ua's heartbeat. Each throb of her pulse birthed something new, rivers, clouds, and the first sighs of mortal air. Kael reached out and touched her wrist, just a brush, a single moment, but the contact rippled through her like lightning. His touch was cool, consuming, tender in its depth. It felt like being seen. Suran's flame followed, his hand covering hers, his light washing away the chill. Their energies collided, not in battle, but in a strange, wordless intimacy. Ua's breath caught, her body arcing under the tension, and for a heartbeat, the world froze. Then came the release, a burst of color spilling across the heavens. Auroras shimmered where the fracture once glowed steady. Gold merged with violet, blue with crimson. The sky moaned softly, alive, awake. Ua withdrew her hands, trembling. Around her,
her creations watched. Kael in shadowed silence, Saran burning with unspoken words, Nala dissolving into a gentle breeze that carried the taste of tears. The goddess stood alone again, and in that quiet she realized the truth of what she had begun. These beings were not simply born of her, they were extensions of her soul, the embodiment of every secret desire she had never dared to name. Through them, she could feel the depth of her own being. Through them, she would learn what it meant to ache. Above them all, the broken sky shimmered like a mirror of her heart, wounded, luminous, and infinite. The first gods had been born not from command, but from yearning, and in their presence, the world began to pulse with the sensual rhythm of creation itself, breath meeting breath, light meeting shadow, all bound by the longing of Ua, the goddess who taught the heavens how to feel.
The heavens no longer slept. What once floated in endless calm now pulsed with uneven rhythm. The fracture Ua had torn across the firmament no longer shimmered gently. It burned, a wound that refused to close. From its edges spilled ribbons of light that coiled through the air like restless spirits, whispering in voices born from her own pulse. Each night the colors changed, sometimes soft and forgiving, sometimes red and furious. They mirrored her inner tremor. The broken sky was not merely a scar, it was her heart, split open and luminous. Ua wandered beneath it, her body faintly glowing, her steps soundless. The world she had created sang, rivers breathing, clouds curling in slow embrace. Yet every beauty reminded her of what was lost. The perfection of silence had vanished, replaced by longing. Kael followed her in quiet distance. His presence was felt before it was seen, the gentle distortion of air, the taste of dusk on her tongue. He watched without demand, his eyes patient, shadowed with ache. Do you dream of the moment before? Before, when the sky was whole, when there was no pulse, no pain? I thought I longed for stillness, but now I fear silence. Kael stepped closer. His shadow brushed her skin like cool breath. Then why flee from what you made? I do not flee. Then why tremble when I near you? The question lingered between them, heavy and tender. She turned, the fracture's crimson glow touching her cheek. His face was calm, not divine, not human, but familiar, as if drawn from her own reflection. I tremble, she said, because I remember. Remember what? The touch of what cannot be touched. Kael smiled faintly, and yet you feel it. Above them, the sky quivered, winds circled, echoing her heartbeat. Creation itself leaned closer, listening. Then Siren descended, a streak of gold through the clouds. His light scattered Kael's shadow, filling the space with brilliance. His voice burned with devotion and fear. "Uwa," he called, "why speak with the darkness you unleashed?" She turned slowly. "Because it is mine." "You are light," he said, his glow trembling. "You are order, purity, not this chaos." Kale's laughter drifted like smoke. "Without her chaos, you would not burn." Their gazes clashed, flame and dusk, opposing halves of the same desire. Between them, Uwa trembled. Kale's darkness pulled her inward, whispering rest. Siren's light urged her upward, promising redemption. Each one was irresistible. Both were ruin. "Enough," she said softly, though her voice carried thunder. "I am not your prize. I am the wound itself, and the light within it." Her words silenced them, yet her body betrayed her. Her pulse quickened. Kale's eyes softened. Siren dimmed, unsure. Then the fracture pulsed violently. A drop of molten light fell, striking the earth. The first star was born, not from peace, but from her torment. Uwa watched it shimmer across the newborn lake below. Its reflection glowed like her heart laid bare. She reached for the surface, and her reflection shifted. Kale's hand appeared upon hers, his touch a memory made real. "I feel you," she whispered. "Then stop pretending you don't," came his voice behind her. She turned. "If I yield, the sky will shatter. Then let it." His whisper was a vow. The air stilled. Even the rivers quieted. Uwa met his gaze, and their boundaries dissolved. His hand found hers. Light flared between their palms. Heat and shadow entwined. Her body trembled, filled with the raw ache of being known. The heavens groaned, the wound widened, spilling cascades of light upon the earth. But it was not destruction, it was birth. From their union rose storm and dawn, cloud and flame. The first winds took shape as their breaths intertwined. "What have we done?" Uwa murmured. Kale's fingers lingered on her skin. "We have made the sky feel." From above came Siran's voice, sharp as lightning. "You would betray the balance." He descended, burning brighter than ever. His eyes were aflame with anguish. "You would drown creation in desire." Uwa turned toward him. "It is not betrayal. It is truth. What of the silence you destroyed?" Silence was never alive. Her words struck like thunder. Siran's glow faltered, his flame wavered. Kale stepped closer, voice low. "You burn not from holiness, but hunger." The air trembled. Siran's rage ignited, yet beneath it lay sorrow. Clouds swelled, and lightning coiled between them. Uwa raised her hands. "You are both born of me, my fear, my longing. Your war is mine." But the storm did not obey. Her emotions bled into the world. Every beat of her heart became thunder, every breath rain. Her hair glowed with threads of light as the heavens convulsed. Kale reached toward her through the chaos, but his hand could no longer touch. The storm lifted him away. Siran's fire circled her like a cage, both protecting and punishing. "Do you see now?" Siran cried. "Desire divides what should be whole." Uwa's eyes filled with tears of light. It also gives it meaning. The sky shattered again, not into destruction, but into color. Waves of violet and gold rippled across creation. The earth below glittered with newborn seas born from her tears. When the last echo faded, silence returned, the kind that listens, not forgets. Uwa stood alone beneath the dimmed fracture. Kale's shadow lingered at the edge of vision, quiet as dusk. Siran's glow hovered distant, fragile, human in its grief. Uwa knelt, fingers touching the ground, feeling the pulse beneath it, her pulse, carried by everything that lived. The broken sky no longer bled, it breathed. She whispered, not to them, but to the wind. Desire made the heavens ache, and in that ache they learned to exist. The air trembled, carrying her voice beyond horizon and time, and as it faded, a soft shimmer returned to the wound above, not healed, not broken, but eternal. The world had learned the first truth of being, that light is never pure until it's touched the dark.
The sky bled light, not in violence, but in surrender. Every thread of creation quivered with longing, drawn toward the wound that split eternity. The broken sky glowed brighter than it ever had, its light no longer steady, but alive, trembling like a body remembering touch. Uwa stood beneath it, her form carved from radiance and shadow. She had tried to contain the storm, but now it pulsed through her veins. Every breath she drew shimmered across the heavens. Every heartbeat echoed in the rivers, the trees, the stars that had grown from her ache. She no longer knew where she ended and the world began. Kyle emerged from the dusk, his figure soft as the horizon after rain. He did not approach immediately. He watched her, reverent, as though witnessing a truth he could never claim. His voice came low, almost human. "You are unraveling," he said. Uwa turned, the glow of her body faintly flickering. "No, I am becoming." He stepped closer. His eyes held no demand, only devotion, the kind that humbles. "And what will become of us?" She hesitated. "There is no us. There is only the longing that binds what can never remain together." Yet as she spoke, her body swayed toward him. The air thickened between them, not heat, not cold, but the memory of both.
Kyle lifted his hand. He did not touch her. He simply let the distance between them hum with potential. "Then let longing speak," he whispered. The wind stirred. It carried with it the scent of rain, the sound of distant thunder. Ua closed her eyes. Around her, the world began to shift. Trees bending as if to listen, waters brightening in reflection. The sky's wound widened one final time, revealing its core, a radiant abyss of color and sound. When she opened her eyes, she saw him not as shadow, but as light's secret twin. Kyle was not darkness. He was depth, the silence beneath music. He was what gave her brilliance meaning. She stepped forward. Their forms met. It was not touch. It was merging. The air dissolved where they joined. Light and dusk folded into one another, their boundaries unraveling like silk in water. Her pulse quickened, echoing through him. His breath became hers. Every nerve within her body lit like a constellation. The fracture above flared, scattering rivers of gold and indigo across the heavens. Creation shivered. Their connection deepened, not with words or flesh, but with surrender. Kale's essence poured into her, a cool current soothing her fire. She gave him her radiance in return, flooding his shadows with warmth. Each exchange carried ache and wonder, a rhythm that pulsed like the universe's first heartbeat. Ua gasped, not in pain, but in awe. The world felt it. Mountains rose, seas deepened, winds carried songs where there had been silence. The broken sky throbbed with their union, its light bending and twisting until it resembled the breath of the divine. From beyond the clouds, Siran appeared. His glow burned desperate, furious, heartbroken. He descended not as rival now, but as witness. His voice trembled like a flame in rain. He said, "Ua, you are tearing the heavens apart." She turned to him, eyes soft and infinite. They were never whole. He stepped forward, his light flickering uncertainly. "If you merge with shadow, there will be no dawn." She smiled faintly. "Then dawn will live inside the dusk." Kale's voice joined hers, low and resonant. "And the dusk will dream of light." Siran faltered. His flame dimmed, and in its place came sorrow, the kind that only love could bear. He whispered, "You will vanish." She reached a trembling hand toward him. "We all vanish, Siran. That is how eternity breathes." He watched as her fingers met Kale's again. The touch rippled through the cosmos, an explosion of light and shadow entwined. The fracture reached its zenith, glowing so fiercely it seemed the entire sky would dissolve. Ua cried out, but the sound was not pain, it was release. Her voice became the wind, her breath became the stars. Kale's form broke apart into rivers of darkness that wrapped around her body like silk, like memory. Together, they spiraled upward into the wound. Siran fell to his knees,
his tears of fire raining down upon the earth. Each tear became a sun. His grief gave the cosmos its light. Within the fracture, Ua felt everything. The pain of creation, the tenderness of surrender, the ecstasy of dissolving into what she once feared. Kale's essence surrounded her, guiding her through the storm she had birthed. She whispered into the vastness, "I am not undone. You are infinite." Kale's voice came from everywhere, from her pulse, her breath, her memory.
Their union was not destruction, but transformation. The broken sky, once a wound, became a radiant expanse of swirling color. Every streak of gold and violet carried their heartbeat. Every star that formed within it sang their names in silence. Below, the world trembled in awe. The seas rose in soft waves. The forests shimmered with dew that glowed faintly blue. Animals stirred, sensing the pulse of the divine in their veins. All that lived would forever carry a trace of that night, the night when love and loss became one. Siran lifted his head. His flame had softened, now pale and tender. "You have given everything," he murmured. A voice, distant and near, replied, "Everything must be given to be real." The broken sky flickered once more, and then, slowly, it began to settle. Its wound did not heal, but neither did it burn. It glowed gently, like the steady breath of something eternal. From its light fell countless fragments, shimmering motes that drifted down, settling upon the world like falling stars. Wherever they landed, life began to bloom. The tears of Siran became suns, the remnants of Kael became night, the breath of Ua became wind. The gods were gone, and yet they were everywhere. Siran stood beneath the new heavens, his flame flickering weakly, his heart heavy with beauty. He looked upward and saw the shape of Ua's face traced faintly across the sky, luminous, serene, infinite. He bowed, he whispered, "You did not destroy the sky, you taught it to feel." And the heavens answered. A soft shimmer crossed the firmament, gold melting into violet, violet into blue. The world exhaled. The balance that had once been shattered now lived in perpetual motion, a rhythm of light and dark, of yearning and peace. Ua's essence whispered through the wind, "There is no wholeness without longing." Her words rippled through the fabric of existence. The stars pulsed in quiet agreement. The seas sighed. Even Siran's flame steadied, finding grace in imperfection. From that night on, the broken sky became sacred. Its wound glowed softly above the horizon, never closing, never dimming. Lovers would one day look upon it and feel a strange ache, not pain, but remembrance. The ache of having once been whole, and the beauty of becoming through desire. For what Ua had created was not merely light or life, but emotion itself, the endless dance between separation and union. And in that dance, the universe would forever find its heartbeat.
When the last tremor faded, the heavens fell quiet. Not in emptiness, but in peace. The light that once burned wild now drifted gently through the air like the sigh of a dream half remembered. The broken sky, once a wound of flame and sorrow, gleamed faintly with a soft, pulsing glow. Its edges no longer bled. They shimmered, tender, alive, eternal. The world below breathed. Mountains steadied their trembling roots, rivers resumed their patient flow, and the winds that once screamed with divine anguish now carried a rhythm slow and tender, like a heartbeat at rest. Creation had survived the storm, not unchanged, but reborn. In the quiet after the merging, the cosmos began to take new form. Where Uwa's radiance had scattered, stars blossomed. Each one pulsed with memory, fragments of her laughter, her pain, her longing. Where Kale's essence had fallen, night took shape, deep, velvety, infinite. It was not emptiness, but depth, the sacred space that gave light its meaning. And from the tears of Siren, scattered like embers, dawns began to bloom. Every sunrise was his remembrance, the ache of losing what he loved, and the beauty of knowing it still existed in another form. His sorrow had become light's devotion. Yet the world was not silent in mourning. It remembered. Every ripple of water shimmered with Uwa's pulse. Every breath of wind whispered her name. The earth itself carried her rhythm, and those who would one day walk upon it would feel that same ache, the soft pain of being alive. High above, the broken sky remained, vast, open, and unfinished. Its radiance was no longer violent. It was patient, glowing like the heart of a being still breathing somewhere beyond reach. The gods who once stood beneath it had dissolved into their creation, yet traces of them lingered, not as bodies, but as sensations, warmth on skin, shade in still air, light trembling on the edge of dusk. Time began to move again, slow and circular. Days unfolded, nights deepened, and the first living souls began to stir. They were small, fragile things, born from the mingling of shadow and flame, of longing and forgiveness. They did not yet know the names of the gods who had made them, but they carried their essence. They looked to the heavens and felt, without understanding, that something once broke there, so they might exist. Each heart that beat upon the newborn earth echoed the pattern of Uwa's own, the constant rhythm of yearning and release. Joy and sorrow no longer opposed each other. They were one, two breaths of the same divine motion.
Siron wandered the world in silence, his flame dim but gentle. He no longer burned with envy or grief. His light had softened into devotion. He walked through forests that shimmered with dew, across rivers that reflected the color of the broken sky, and wherever he went, life followed. His sorrow nourished the soil. His tears became rain. One evening, as dusk folded itself around him, he paused before the horizon. Above, the fracture blazed faintly violet. It was neither day nor night, the hour between, where everything touched without merging. He felt her there, in that balance, as if her breath lingered on the air. "Uwa," he whispered, "you are everywhere,
and yet nowhere. A breeze answered, soft, melodic, familiar. It brushed his cheek with the gentleness of a caress. "Do not look for me," it seemed to say. "You were always part of me." He closed his eyes. Warmth spread through him, and for a moment he understood the meaning of loss, of love, of surrender. Uwa had not vanished. She had become the act of creation itself. The sky would forever bear her wound, and through it the world would keep feeling. In that realization, Siran smiled. His flame no longer flickered with sorrow, but with quiet acceptance. He lifted his hands to the heavens, and where his light touched the fracture, the colors deepened, crimson softening to gold, gold melting into blue. The broken sky sang, a hum so low it trembled through the earth. And deep within that hum, another voice whispered, Kale's voice, smooth as nightfall. "She breathes still," it murmured, "in every shadow, in every heartbeat that dares to love." Siran bowed his head, then let her be endless. The world glowed in agreement. Across the horizon, the first mortals began to dream. Their minds, newly formed, were filled with images they could not name, of light meeting darkness, of bodies dissolving into color, and a sky that wept with beauty. They would one day tell these visions as stories, not knowing they were memories older than time. They would call the glowing wound above them the Veil of Uwa, believing it to be a gateway between worlds. Lovers would kneel beneath it, whispering vows to the sky, asking the goddess to keep their hearts from breaking. And yet, when those hearts inevitably did break, they would look upward and remember. Beauty is born from fracture.
Generations passed. The myth of Uwa and the broken sky spread through tongues that had never known the divine. Some would call her the mother of stars, others the flame that wept. Some would say she was punished for her desire. Others would say she saved creation by yielding to it. None would agree, and that was the truest reflection of her essence. Because Uwa was never meant to be understood. She was meant to be felt. The fracture in the heavens remained, luminous and eternal, a scar that glowed with the pulse of existence. It never healed, and that was its grace. Through it, the universe continued to breathe, to tremble, to ache. Every dawn that rose carried her warmth, every twilight her silence. In the farthest reaches of night, Kale's presence endured. He was the stillness between stars, the comfort found in shadow. When mortals gazed upward in fear of darkness, they were unknowingly held by him. He had become the tender mystery that softened the edge of light. And Siren, guardian of day, keeper of devotion, would forever lift his flame toward her. His light, though diminished, remained steady, illuminating what she had left behind. The two forces no longer fought. They danced, eternal opposites born from the same longing. Thus, balance was not restored, but reimagined.
The cosmos no longer sought perfection. It pulsed with emotion, fluid and alive. What had once been divine silence was now divine music, a slow, eternal rhythm between yearning and peace. On quiet nights, when the air grew still and the stars shimmered brighter than usual, the world could almost hear it. A whisper carried through the wind, soft as the brush of lips against skin. It said, "I am still here." And in that whisper was everything: the ache of separation, the sweetness of creation, the serenity of becoming whole through breaking. The heavens no longer feared their wound. The gods no longer needed to be seen. What remained was more sacred than divinity itself: the feeling of existence, the pulse of beauty born from ruin. Above it all, the broken sky glowed endlessly, neither curse nor salvation, but reminder that love, when given completely, reshapes eternity.
Listen closely, wanderer of the quiet night, for the world still carries her breath. If you stand beneath the broken sky and close your eyes, you may feel it, the pulse of a goddess who gave herself to creation, the soft ache of light remembering its own birth. It moves beneath your skin, ancient and tender, whispering of a love so vast it could not remain whole. They say myths fade with time, but some truths never die. Uwa's story lingers not as memory, but as sensation, a trembling in the chest when beauty and sorrow meet, when you look at the sky and feel both longing and peace at once. That is her gift, her curse, her echo. She is not gone. She is the quiet between your heartbeats. The gods who witnessed her surrender have vanished, yet their essence flows through you. Every tear that falls carries Siran's devotion. Every breath drawn in shadow bears Kyle's stillness. Uwa lives in the space between them, the endless dance of desire and acceptance. And it is in that fragile space that all creation continues. The broken sky above you is no wound, not anymore. It is a mirror, showing that every fracture holds light, that perfection is not wholeness, but persistence. Uwa broke so that the world could feel. She scattered her own light so that we might learn to see. And in that scattering lies the origin of every heartbeat that dares to love despite knowing it will one day ache. Close your eyes and remember, before her there was silence. After her there was song. The song does not belong to the gods anymore. It belongs to us, to those who ache, who yearn, who love with trembling hands and uncertain hearts. It hums through the wind that bends the trees, through the ocean's breath, through the stillness that follows every storm. It is the rhythm of loss, the serenity of surrender. Humans would come to name it emotion,
but it is older than that word, older than language, even older than light. It is the pulse of Ua's final act, forever expanding across eternity. Sometimes, when dawn blushes faintly before the sun's rise, the fracture in the heavens gleams brighter. It is said that in that moment, Ua's gaze brushes against the world once more, not to reclaim what was lost, but to admire what her loss made possible. Creation, blooming again and again from imperfection.
There is a quiet truth hidden in her myth. Love is not meant to preserve, it is meant to transform. The moment one clings too tightly, the sky begins to crack. But from that crack spills the light that births everything new. Ua understood this in the instant of her surrender. Her tears fell not from pain, but from awe. The realization that to give everything is to become everything. And so the heavens remember. When storms gather and lightning cuts across the clouds, the world relives her passion, the fierce unity of flame and night. When the air grows still after rain, that is her peace. When two souls meet and, for a fleeting moment, recognize each other as if they've known one another across centuries, that is her memory breathing through them. Ua exists wherever longing does. She lingers in every ache that refuses to fade, in every silence that hums with unspoken desire. Her myth is not confined to the sky. It is woven into the blood of all living things. You too are part of her continuation. Every time you fall in love, every time your heart breaks and heals again, you are replaying her creation. You are the living proof that beauty cannot exist without fracture. And perhaps that is the truest purpose of the broken sky. To remind you that loss is not the end of light, but its awakening. Imagine now a night where stars burn low and the air is thick with the scent of rain. The earth hums faintly beneath your feet. You look upward, and there, above the dark horizon, the veil of Ua glows, soft and endless. The light trembles, not steady, but alive, breathing like a body at rest. In that trembling you see her, not as goddess, but as feeling itself. She smiles through the shimmer. You do not hear words, but meaning flows through you. You are made of the same longing that shaped me. And in that instant, the distance between mortal and divine vanishes. You understand that creation was never about gods or stars. It was about this, the ache of being, the fragile wonder of existing within both shadow and light. Ua's sacrifice was not destruction. It was transformation, the ultimate surrender. In her breaking, she taught the universe to feel. In her disappearance, she became everything.
Her myth endures because it mirrors what we are. Fleeting, fragile, and yet infinite in feeling.
each moment of tenderness, each ache of desire, each quiet breath taken beside someone who matters, all are small versions of her story. And so, every love becomes a ritual to her, every heartbreak a prayer, every silence after passion a return to her stillness. The broken sky is not above us, it is within us, the luminous scar that reminds us we are alive. Even now, eons beyond her final breath, the universe has not forgotten the texture of her voice. It lingers in starlight, in the hush before dawn, in the pulse of oceans moving endlessly toward shore. When you listen closely, when the noise of the world fades, you can hear it, a whisper, faint and eternal. To break is to become. The narrator falls silent, but the echo remains. The myth dissolves into the rhythm of your own breath. The line between story and self blurs until you can no longer tell where Yua ends and you begin. Perhaps that was always her intention, to dissolve the boundaries between divine and human, to remind you that both ache the same way. Because in the end, creation is not a tale of gods, but of emotion made visible. The sky broke so that love could be seen, felt, remembered. And when the last listener departs, when the night deepens once more into its quiet hum, the broken sky will continue to shimmer, not as a reminder of tragedy, but as a promise that beauty survives through imperfection, and love, when it shatters, does not die. It becomes the light by which the world remembers itself. The myth ends where it began, in silence. But this silence is not absence, it is fullness. It is the sound of the world breathing, the heart of Yua beating within everything that dares to exist. Stand beneath her sky, wanderer. Feel the warmth in the crack of the heavens, the soft glow against your skin. That is her, the goddess who surrendered to creation, who became every dawn and every dusk. Remember her not as a deity, but as a feeling you already carry, the tender ache of being alive. And as you breathe in, let the final truth settle softly within you. The sky was never broken. It was simply learning how to love.